What's up, y'all? DJ the Sports Blurred. I'm back. Did you miss me? So we are approximately 25 days until the game, right? The big game versus Ohio State and Michigan this year. It looks like a freight train, two freight trains about to smack dab right into each other. The last time I think the game had this much hype was back in 2006. Or whatever year that was, that we were, ranked. Ohio State was ranked number one, Michigan was ranked number two, and it was for all the marbles. Troy Smith was coming, fresh into a Heisman Trophy campaign. We would end up getting smacked by Florida in the national championship game, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Nah, we're not going to bring up old stuff. But I'm bringing up all that to just say this is looking like it's building to be one of the great Ohio State versus Michigan games in recent history. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to give some stats for both teams, and then kind of give a couple previews of what this game could end up looking like here in a few weeks. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of college football, if you like my content, man, please consider supporting my channel, subscribing, liking, shooting all the comments, all that good stuff, man. I really appreciate the love and support I've gotten so far. I really appreciate that. So, it means a lot to the channel. It means a lot to me if you would consider subscribing. All right, now let's get into it. Both Michigan and Ohio State are only one of 6 teams that are currently unbeaten in college football. I mean, there aren't a ton of them left. Ohio State is currently tied with being number 2 in the country, and Michigan is number 4. So let's go into the one thing that you can look at as being one of the most important parts of both teams. We're going to start with some of their skill positions and then kind of work our way down, okay? So first things first, quarterback. You know what Ohio State brings with this. You have CJ Stroud, who is the number 1 odds-on favorite for being the Heisman Trophy winner. He has right at about 2,400 yards passing this year, 71% completion rating, 29 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He is having an amazing season, right? But then you have his counterpart from Michigan having a great season in his own right. Now, his numbers don't stand out like CJ Stroud's does, but he's not asked to do what CJ Stroud is asked to do. JJ McCarthy, 1,500 yards passing, 75% completion rate, 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Both are a very integral part of what their offense calls for them to do. Now, CJ's offense calls for him to make plays, where JJ's offense calls for him to just make sure. I don't want to call him a game manager because I do think he is more than a game manager, but for lack of better terms, I'm going to call him a game manager for here, okay? Now let's move to the running backs. I'm going to give you Ohio State's 2 top running backs. I'm going to give you Michigan's 2 top running backs. TreVeyon Henderson, 96 carries, 552 yards, 6 touchdowns. He averages 5.8 yards a clip. And you also have Miyan Williams, okay? Now, Miyan Williams has arguably been better than TreVeyon Henderson this year, has been far more consistent. Now, his stats are a little bit less than TreVeyon Henderson, 76 carries, so 20 less carries, 525 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6.9 yards a carry, okay? The two of them actually have a really good thing going on. It's 1A, 1B with them. There's not one actual lead back this year. Now, Michigan is completely different. Their offense is actually powered through the run. Listen to this. Blake Corum has 179 carries by himself. TreVeyon Henderson and Miyan Williams have a combined 172 yards. So Blake Corum has 7 more carries than the both of those backs combined. He also has 1,078 yards rushing. TreVeyon Henderson and Miyan Williams combined have 1,077. So he has 1 more yard than both of the Buckeyes leading rushers combined. And he also has 14 touchdowns. So he's averaging 6 yard a clip. Dude, that is phenomenal. You may not understand what that means, but to have that amount of carries and to be pushing for 6 yards a carry is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this guy is also, in my opinion, should be a candidate for the Heisman for what he's been able to do with Michigan. Michigan's second leading rusher, 53 carries. Donovan Edwards, 53 carries, 349 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now let's go to where Ohio State has just a grip on the actual better skill position, okay? Wide receivers. Don't forget, Ohio State's arguably their best wide receiver has also really not played this year. Jackson Smith-Njigba only has 5 receptions for 43 yards this year. He's rarely played, and I hear talks here in Columbus that they might even shut him down, just depending on how the season goes. But Emeka Ejikpa, 47 receptions, 788 yards, 7 TDs. You know, he's averaging 16.8 yards a carry, but not to be catch, but not to be outdone. Marvin Harrison Jr., 48 catches, 783 yards, 16.3 yards a catch, 10 touchdowns. I mean, the both of them have been just absolutely phenomenal. You know, I've heard from a lot of people that Marvin Harrison Jr. might actually be the best wide receiver in the country. And the way he's been playing, the way he's coming off this Penn State game, you know, I'd have to say that he is. For Michigan, their two top leading receivers, senior Ronnie Bell, he's a wide receiver. 39 receptions, 482 yards, 1 touchdown. And then they also have a tight end in Luke Schoonmaker, 28 receptions, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, okay? Now let's go to their total offensive numbers. As of right now, if you've been keeping score, let me go back. I'm going to give the check mark for the QB to Ohio State. I'm going to give the check mark to Michigan for the running backs. And I'm going to go ahead for the run game. And then I'm going to go ahead and give the check mark to Ohio State for wide receivers. So we're 2-1 Ohio State right now. Now let's talk about total offense. Ohio State has the number 2 scoring offense in the country at 48.9. Michigan's right on their tail, okay? Michigan's averaging 41 points per game. They're ranked number 8. Ohio State has the number 6 total offense in the country. Michigan, not so much. They have the number 22 ranked offense. Now, don't forget, a lot of Michigan's offense is built on that run. So Ohio State just has these big gash plays, okay? They're averaging 510 yards a game, where Michigan's only averaging 470. Not a huge difference. But when you're passing the ball as much as Ohio State does, you're probably going to average more yards, okay? Now, on third down efficiency for Ohio State, they're 50%. Michigan is also 50%. Fourth down efficiency, believe it or not, Ohio State is 10 for 10 in fourth down efficiency this year. They were 100% every time they've gone for it this year on fourth down. They have succeeded. Michigan, not far behind. 6 out of 7, which makes them 86%. Ohio State averages, let's see where we're at. Okay, so Ohio State has 2,542 pass yards, 30 touchdowns. Michigan, 1,700 1,800 pass yards, 12 touchdowns. And for the rush, Ohio State has 1,500 rushing yards, where Michigan has 1,900 rushing yards. So in total offense, I'm going to give Ohio State a check, okay? So now we're up 3-1. I do think Michigan has, believe it or not, just an absolute complete offense. Now, they have a better identity than Ohio State, believe it or not. I mean, I think Michigan's offensive line is better than Ohio State's. Ohio State for the last 2 games, when you take in consideration what happened versus Iowa, and then also what happened versus Michigan State, not being able to run the ball. Now, you get one pass, you say, okay, well, Iowa, they had a really good defense. They're really stout against the run, but you got to remember that Michigan ran for over 400 yards on these guys, and we're supposed to have the better of the athletes. So O-line, I'm going to give that check to Michigan. So now we're up 3-2 Ohio State. We're going to talk about defense, okay? Ohio State has the number 6 total defense. They allowed 270 yards. Where do you think Michigan is? Better or worse? If you said better than Ohio State, you would be correct, guys. Michigan has the number 3 total ranked defense. They average about 250 yards allowed a game. Now, for scoring defense, Ohio State, top 10, they're number 10, okay? They allow 16.8 yards a game. Where Michigan is number 3, they allow 11.5 points per game. Number 7, Ohio State is ranked number 7 in the turnover margin. They force about 1.12 turnovers a game. Michigan is ranked number 42. They're not really turning the ball over a lot, or they're not really forcing turnovers a lot. They only average 0.38. So every third game, Michigan gets a turnover, okay? Ohio State is ranked number 28 in sacks. They have 22 overall. Michigan is ranked number 8 in sacks. They have 26 overall. And when it comes down to interceptions, Ohio State is ranked number 15 with 10, and Michigan is ranked number 86 with 5. Now, this one was a really close one. I give you guys a lot of stats. You guys already know I'm a nerd, okay? We like stats. I like to see the analytics of things before I'm making a decision. If you guys have to rank the defense, do you guys give Ohio State the ranking, or do you guys give Michigan the ranking? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give Ohio State a slight check mark in the defensive rankings, and it's just because they're forcing more turnovers. If you watch that Penn State game, so one of the things that, I saw won the game for Ohio State is the turnovers, forcing them into interceptions, forcing them into fumbles. That actually essentially won Ohio State that game. And then finally, we're going to talk about some of their common opponents, okay? Ohio State and Michigan, they both played Michigan State. Ohio State beat Michigan State 49-20. Michigan beat them 29-7. They both played Iowa. Ohio State beat Iowa 54-10. Michigan beat them 27-14. And then they also both played Penn State. Now, this was a really close game for Ohio State, okay? They ended up only winning 44-31. Now, I say only. They won, 13 points on the road in Happy Valley. Where Michigan played them, they just totally destroyed them 41-17, and a game that probably shouldn't have even been that close. But they did it at home. But still, nonetheless, they absolutely destroyed them. I'm going to give Ohio State the check mark when it comes to those common opponents, just because they've been a little bit more dominant, with the exception of Penn State. That Iowa win was completely more dominant than Michigan, and then the Michigan State. I mean, Ohio State won by 29 points. So I'm going to give that check mark to Ohio State. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-3 that I'm going to be, 5-3, 2 that I'm giving Ohio State in terms of where I think they're better than Michigan at. Just a quick video I just wanted to kind of throw out. And I'm really pumped for this game, y'all. It's going to be a really big one. For some reason, I don't think it's going to be close. I think either Ohio State's going to get blown out, or I think Michigan's going to get blown out. But as the game gets closer, we'll start to preview this game a little bit better. We'll start to have some predictions, and then we'll go from there. If you've watched so far, man, please give me a like and comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys for all that you do. I appreciate you guys more than you know. I really enjoy doing this. This is just super fun for me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.